So here we are. Before we get into our chapter and learning today in Tomer Devorah, something amazing that I think that keeps coming up for a lot of us. Okay, keeps coming up for a lot of us, and we don't really know what to do with it. And I think that this is something that comes up constantly for us in our life, and it's very, very hard to know what to do with it. So what am I talking about? There's a concept in Zohar that talks about something called Pizur Nefesh. Pizur Nefesh means when the Nefesh becomes scattered. What does it mean when the Nefesh becomes scattered? Remember, we're souls and we have bodies, right? And these bodies are kind of like our cars in this world. They allow us to go from place to place, to do things. But the essence of this body and the essence of us is our Nefesh, is our neshama. That's our engine. That's our driving force. That's the home of all of our feelings, all of our emotions, all of our desires, everything that we are as a person, my personality, my character. It all comes from the type of nefesh that I have. Now, the idea is constantly throughout life to remember that the healthier my nefesh is, the better my life is going to be. Okay, that doesn't mean that my life is going to be worry-free, problem-free, any of that free. But I'm able to deal with problems, deal with people, deal with situations, deal with getting fired, deal with getting a no, deal with all these things in a way where not everything breaks me. Not everything now throws me into bed or into whatever, takes me off my game. Where I'm able to look at life, face life, deal with life, and not have life break me. Right? And that's the essence. That's like what we're doing in this world. We're here to heal our neshama. You're here to heal our nefesh from something called Pizur Nefesh. Pizur Nefesh, it explains in the Zohar, is that when your mind once knows one thing is true, your heart has a whole other desire, and what you do in essence is a whole other thing. Where it's the person in their minds knows that, let's say, eating well and exercising is something that's going to give them energy and vitality and weight loss and help them fit into their clothes like they want to. And all the good things are waiting over there, right? That's their mind. Their heart desires the cheesecake. Their heart desires the stuff that they're addicted to. Okay, all the chemicals and all the sugars and the stuff that their body craves, and every single time they see it, they already feel their saliva and they already feel their urge and all that stuff because they're addicted. Okay, so that's the heart's desires. And then there's the actions. The actions depends, right? Depends. So what we're learning here is that as long as your mind and your heart and your actions and your words are in different places, like, as long as a person could be talking, that's why all these people that recently, I'll give the example, let's say Rav Chaim Walder, it wasn't a Rav, Chaim Walder, that was at the end of his life, they found out that he was a child pedophile. And he wrote all these beautiful books about children speaking and sharing children's stories, and he would go to all the schools, and he was a child therapist, and he was like the man to talk to about children and chinuch and child psychology. And meanwhile, behind closed doors, he's persecuting children and women, persecuting them, mamish, right? The reason that when this came out, it was such a shock, or such a people didn't believe it, didn't want to believe it. Even by his funeral, people were saying, we don't believe it, it's not true. The reason why is because it's like a person is X all of a sudden they're Y. It's like what? It's like the missionaries that are now living in Nachlot. You heard about these missionaries? I said it's Rebbetzin. Yeah. Last week, almost like a bunch of seminary girls went to them for a Shabbos meal. Right? Christian missionaries that look like totally from religious Jews that live in Jerusalem here, and they're opening their home to Shabbos meals, and meanwhile they're missionaries. Right?
What are they doing then?
What is all of that? And there's another thing that goes on here in Israel a little bit, and this is something that I really have a hard time with, which is something like the yeshiva world doesn't let you have a non-kosher phone. If you want to get your kids into certain schools and certain structures of education, you cannot be you can have access to the internet without filters. And if you have filters, then it has to be at home, and it has to be on computer, meaning no smartphone. Kosher phone, basic Nokia, like we used to have, right? And the thing that's accepted to do, in a way, sort of, is that all the people that send their kids to the schools like that, they all have the Nokia phone, they all have their kosher phones, but also, what do they also have? Their smartphones. They have two phones. Right? Technically, there's nothing wrong with it, but based on what we're going to be learning today, we're going to see how that really kills the person. Why? Because when a person is saying, believes in X, and now Chaim Walder believed in everything that he wrote and everything that he said and all the therapy that he believed in when he was interviewed for different shows and different, newspapers and different things. All the things that he said were true, were on target, were right, were in line psychologically, hashkafically, halachically, very, very much. But behind closed doors, the desires of his heart were much stronger than the thoughts in his mind. And the desires in his heart made him do things that even though in his head he was going in a different direction, the desires were also going in two different directions. The more a person has this kind of like split ends, the more a person has a split between what they know and how they act, what they know and what they say, what they know and what they bring into the world, the more they're split, the more sick and weak their nefesh gets. Understand? That is the source of
Nefesh. Define that.
Nefesh is your spiritual body. It's your emotional, mental, psychological
Soul, no?
Yeah, it's a certain level of your soul. But that's your engine, it's your driving force. It's who you are. It's your personality's there, your character's there, your beliefs are there, your dreams are there, your desires are there. That's who you are. The body is just flesh and blood. The body is just a vehicle. Everything that you are, your thoughts, everything that comes from the nefesh. Now the idea is to combine. To combine, that's the idea of life. How do I heal my nefesh? A few things. Number one, you heal your nefesh, okay, when you have as least discrepancies as possible. How do you heal your nefesh? Meaning you walk the walk and talk the talk of what you are. Bless you. And you can say, this is the right way to live. Exercising every single day for an hour, drinking green juices, all of that, doing all of that stuff, meditating, that's the right way to live. You can really preach that. You can go all around the world preaching that. You can have a business preaching that. But if behind closed doors, you're doing the opposite of that, okay? What happens to you if behind closed doors you're like pounding whatever and you're eating whatever and you don't care about chemicals, you don't care about anything. You put it out because that's what you put out, but behind closed doors you do a whole different thing. What that does is it tears down your nefesh. When the nefesh is torn down, the person gets triggered much more easily. The person gets offended much more easily. The person gets hurt much more easily. The person gets broken down much more easily. The nefesh is not strong. It's not solid. It doesn't have that kind of like resilience that a person that is in line with where they are. Okay? So that means that, oftentimes we can really, really want that cheesecake, but in my mind, I know that like, I want to lose weight. Like, I'm not happy in my body. I don't like the way I look. People don't like the way they look to the point where they won't go to like family weddings. Like, they won't go on dates. Like, they won't like, they feel so unhappy and they so don't like the way they look. They hate themselves every single time they look in the mirror. And yet, at the same time, they're eating foods that are perpetuating their stuff. How? How does that happen? You know that this is going to bring you to results that you hate, to results that don't make you happy, to a breakdown in your system, in your life. And yet, you do it anyway. How does that work? What's the psychology behind that?
She refers to...
You all live like in touch with all of it all the time? Your mind tells you no, but your heart says yes? Your heart says no, but your mind says yes? How does that work?
You get comfortable.
Comfortable with what?
With doing what you were used to, and you don't want to change.
Is it comfortable or is it addicted? Addicted. We get addicted to stimulus. And our bodies already, every single time we see that ice cream or that guy or that drug or that drink, okay, or that setting or that environment, it triggers what I know. I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with that taste. I'm familiar with that feeling. I'm familiar with that smoke. I'm familiar with that high. I'm familiar with that feeling. I know that feeling later brings me to results that I don't like. I don't want. But there's something about it that's winking at me. There's something about it that's calling me. Something about it that I want, that I desire, that feels good in the moment. There's something about it that I'm used to, that I'm familiar with. To go cold turkey, oftentimes, with things that are destructive for yourself, for your life, to go cold turkey, oftentimes, is something that works the best, works the most. When the more you're addicted to something, the more you're familiar with something, the more you like the initial feeling of something. How many people do we know that they know that this guy's not good for them, he's 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 not good for them, and then he texts them, hey, and they're like all over it. They're just like right back to where they were. Why? Because the part of them that's addicted to the dopamine rushes, that's addicted to the stimulus, that's addicted to the feeling and the rush in the beginning of the back and forth, the part of them that's addicted can't say no. But your mind knows every single time he's been here, every single time I've had this relationship with him, it went the same exact way. It went the same. I was so hurt in the end. I was just talking to someone and she said, like, literally, he's done this to me 4 or 5 times. And now, the last time, I was like, that's it, it's over, I don't want to see him, I don't want to hear from him anymore, nothing. And the other day, he texted her, hey. And all of a sudden, she's like, I just want to answer. I just want to forget everything that was, and I just want to answer. Is it coming from a place of he's good for me, I long for him, I miss him, I love him? Where's it coming from? That she just wants to answer. She's at her body, her physical body, her mind is addicted to the rush that comes from the feeling of talking to him. From the rush. Everything else about her knows that this is going to take me nowhere fast. But that initial stimulation, it's just like that initial bite, that initial kiss, that initial drug, that initial drink, that first sip after you haven't, that first touch after you haven't. It feels so good, or even after you have. It says that when you starve the monster, it shrinks. But the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. When you starve the monster, it shrinks. The addiction shrinks. Gets smaller. And when you feed it, it gets hungrier. The more addicted you are to anything, to a relationship, to food, to, wow, there's so many things in this world that people can get addicted to. So many things. The more you get addicted to things that are unhealthy for you, in essence, in general, addiction is not a healthy thing. Even if it's to good things, it's not healthy. Okay? The idea is to be in charge of things, not to have the things themselves be in charge of you. That's the idea. To ride the horse, not to have the horse ride you. To decide to do the things that you're doing. Not to have to do it because I need it, because otherwise I can't live, I can't breathe, I can't. To make it a choice, right? We're people with bechira, that's what Hashem wants us to choose. So he says that the more you feed that monster, the more you feed the craving, the hungrier it gets. People that are not shomer negia, people that are, let's say, very sexually active, the more they do it, the more they want it. Period. The more you drink, the more you desire it. The more you party, the more familiar and the more you want to be back there. The more, even though you wake up the next morning and you're like, it's a familiar addiction that the body itself gets addicted to. The body itself feels addicted to it, already to that familiar feeling. So your mind says, hey, you don't like the way it feels. Hey, you're gaining weight from this. Hey, you're like in a really bad relationship with someone that's using you and destroying you. Hey, you're smoking things that are taking you out of your life and out of your focus. And then the next time it comes up, The next time it's in your face again, it's that familiarity that pushes you towards it. It's that feeling, that initial feeling that you first have. He brings up and Rabbi Yuval, that I learned from my teacher. He says that like a person that welds metal, right? He cuts metal, and all the stuff that comes out of it, all the I don't know. There's a word for it. I forgot the word for it. That there's like the fire that comes out of it. You know how the fire comes out of the thing that cuts metal? It comes out, there's a spark, and then it dies. A spark, and then it dies. This is the same thing when we put ourselves in a position that we do things that we don't want to do, that are not good for us, that we don't like doing, that we know is bad for us, that we got away from. It's that that feeling that I want to have in the beginning that like feels so good, that taste, that flavor, that experience, that touch, that smoke, that thing that I'm familiar with. But a second after I touch it, a second after I eat it, a second after I smoke it, a second after, it goes, and it dies down. But it's that second of like that fire that people are after all the time. That's why people can never get to that high that they had the first time they got high. And they're always trying to get back to it, and they're always trying to feel it. And every time, I speak to people that are smokers, and they say that like, they don't even feel it anymore. They're addicted to it, but they don't even feel it anymore. It's like in the beginning, it was like, it was giving them like open mind and open heart, and all of a sudden, like everything was beautiful and everyone was amazing and all that. Now that they're potheads, they don't even feel any of that thing. They don't even feel it, but they hope to, every time they light it up, they hope to have a little bit of that. So it's that same thing. So the concept that we're learning today is that the more you're able to bridge the things that you know, the things that you do, okay, the things that you say, the more you're able to live on the same page with all of those things, the healthier and stronger and more resilient your nefesh will be. And that means that you can take life in a much healthier way. And you'll attract from a much better place, from a much healthier place. And your life will be stable. Why are people so unstable? Why is instability so rampant today that people have to take a cocktail of drugs in order to just get through the day? Why? Because there's all this pizura nefesh. I know what's right and I don't do it. I know it's probably right to do the dishes, wash the floor, make my house feel good, feel nice, but it's been 2 weeks and my house looks like a pigsty and it's nasty and it's disgusting and I can't do it. You could do it. Your choices are to not do it. You're choosing not to do it. But you know it's good, you know it's important, you know it's going to set the tone for the house, you know the people that live there are going to be so happy, you know it's going to make you feel so good, but you're not doing it. Right? The idea is to get as much as possible in line on the same page with what I know and how I feel. And keep those two things on the same page. If what you feel is opposite to what you know, you gotta pay attention to that. I was just life coaching somebody yesterday, and she was saying to me, she kept on going like this, I'm a very intellectual person. She kept on going like this. I'm a very intellectual person. And I said, okay, so what's the problem? She said, but I can't get my act together. I know everything I need to do, but I can't do it. My house is overwhelming. Everything's messy. I can't focus. I can't think. I get overwhelmed. I have road rage. She curses on the road all day, and she's really cute. And she doesn't know what's wrong with her. And she used to be, this is the best part. She used to be so accomplished and the kind of person that is a go-getter and does things and has an amazing career. She went to an Ivy League college. She was like that. After she had her kids, she got married, she had her kids. And she kept on telling me there's no point in me taking classes. There's no point in me, doing life coaching. There's no point because I know what everything you're telling me I know. Everything you're telling me I know. So what's the problem, I asked? Because you're coming here and you're sitting here and you're talking to me because there's a problem. What's the problem? Her heart is not on board with her head. Her heart is not on board with her head. And when your heart is going in one direction and your head going in a different direction, guess what happens to you? Guess what happens to you? You either go with your heart or you get paralyzed. You don't do anything. You're basically non-functional. Unless you have to do things. And then you do them. But you're not actively living and choosing to live your life. So she's paralyzed. She can't do anything. She basically does what she needs to do, makes some sort of a breakfast lunch for her kids, and like drives them to school, picks them up. The rest of the day, she looks at all the things that she has to do in her life, the piles of laundry, the things, and she can't do anything. I asked her, I said, what's fun for you to do that you like doing, that you do? That's not hard. That's not like, oh my gosh, another responsibility on my plate, I can't. And she said, like the other day, I was sitting on the computer and we were planning a trip, and I sat on it for like 3 hours. I was researching, and it was a lot of fun. I said, how come you were able to sit? What happened to the ADD that you were describing? And, no, like I love planning trips. The girl loves to plan trips. She went to become something like, I don't know, something, let's say an accountant. She loves plan. Every time she has to sit down and do her work, or every time she has to sit down and fold laundry, or every time she has to do her dishes, she gets paralyzed. But put her in front of a computer and let her research a trip and the route and and where they're going to sleep and all of that, she's on fire. Her heart and her head are not in the same place, and therefore she's paralyzed and unhappy and stuck. And I explained to her that it's not a matter of what's going on in here. It's a matter of what's going on in here. Clearly, the desires of our heart, it says that a person's desires in their heart ends up pushing them in that direction. Period. Person can preach Torah all day, but if in the end they're hurting people, if in the end they're stealing money, if in the end they're doing things that are just like ma'us in the eyes of Hashem, they're in their minds they know it's true, but their heart is much stronger. That's where they really are. That's where they really are. And it doesn't mean that they're all like this and they're not like that at all. No, it doesn't mean that. If a person like Chaim Walder is like, hurting people, like literally damaging souls, he's evil. That's a different story. But if a person in their own life is passionate about one thing and believes in one thing and knows that this is true, but then their heart pulls them in another direction, like I know tznius is good, I know tznius is good for me, I know modesty, I know it lifts me, I know it connects me to myself, I know it makes the people around me focus in on me and my soul and on my legs or my thighs or my whatever. I know that it's like keeping the focus on who I am and what I am and what I bring to the table, and it makes me focus that way also, and it brings out my femininity and all that stuff. But the next time I see jeans and I'm home and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not over that, I didn't conquer that fully, then all of a sudden my heart gets pulled in that direction, and then I can maybe see myself putting them on. But I know but what happens to all the things I know? What happens to all the things that you know? So Rabbi Nachman teaches like this. He says that the more a person connects themselves to the da'at behind something, which means the meaning behind something, the more you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, the more you can get both your heart and your mind on board. If in the beginning of the year last year you were like, oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous that like we can't tear toilet paper on Shabbos, like so stupid, like big deal, like what's tearing toilet paper on Shabbos? So Rabbi Nachman says, okay, you don't get it, and that's why you don't connect to it, and that's why you don't do it. But if you went into the like spiritual ramifications of it and what it really means, the whole idea behind it of not creating at all in any form, shape, or form at all, in any kind of way, and using one day of your week to completely not touch creation. You're just in it. You're just breathing. You're just not making anything happen. You're not making anything go. You're not doing anything. You just is. What that does to your whole system. Now, scientifically, they're coming out that when a person is able to do this at least once a month, not every week, once a month, they end up living longer. Their cells regenerate, where when they're 50 and 60, they look like they're 30 and they're 40. Because their cells, their organs, the organs inside stay younger longer. When you have a day, a month, that you're just not doing anything that has to do with any kind of like making things happen. Just breathing God's air in the world, that's it. Eating, sleeping, that's it. Reading a book, that's it. Not making anything happen. The fact that you completely shut down allows you to open up reservoirs inside of yourself that you didn't know you had. And that is so healthy for the overall system, the mind, the body, everything. Now they're coming out with it. And they're actually referring to the fact that the Jews have been doing it for centuries. That they do it every week. It's an amazing restart for the system, emotionally and mentally and physically, spiritually. So if now I explain to somebody that's like so stupid. I explain to them the da'at behind something, the information behind it, the meaning behind it, how that works, the mechanisms behind it, what it does, what kind of an effect it's going to have on them. I explain to them that if they take this capsule, their hairs are going to fall out, and they're going to sleep better, and they're going to look better, and their skin's going to regenerate, and they're going to pay money to get that capsule. Where beforehand they walk right by it, they don't even know what it is. So what are we saying? Rabbi Nachman says, the more you connect yourself intellectually, mentally, so what you know is good, what you know is right, what you know is going to help you, what you know is going to heal you, what you know is going to do good for you, what you know is going to save your life, what you know is good for you. Well, yeah, it's hard to get up in the morning and go on a walk. Yeah, it's hard to get up in the morning and daven. Yeah, it's hard to get up and to refrain from your addictions. It is. It's hard. But if you know what it's doing for you and where it's going to take you, so you pay the price right now, it's going to take you. The more you're able to get your heart on board with what your head knows is good for you, the healthier and stronger you're going to become. The more you're able to get your heart on board with what your head knows is good, is healthy for you, the stronger and more resilient you become. Where all of a sudden people get up in your face, or people don't invite you to Nate's in the morning, and you're still there.
Hey! I didn't care that much.
I know you didn't care. But you did care because you said you overthought it.
Yeah, I did, a little bit.
A little overthinking.
I wasn't even talking to you, I was talking to Bob.
I hear things. I'm here. I'm in the room. Why? Well, it's on a small scale. That's on a tiny little scale. But then there's going to be bigger things in life where they might really throw you off your game. I don't want anything throwing me off my game every day. It's like 4 times a week. I'm up, I'm down. I'm up, I'm down. I'm up, I'm down. Where's stability? The idea in life is to get to a place where it's stable, where your moods are stable, and not through drugs or a combination of them. Unless you're like in dire need of them. You're also paying a price for those drugs. A big price. Not a financial one, an emotional one, a huge one. The idea in life is to keep the nefesh as balanced as possible. Where every day you know what to expect from yourself. Where every day you know basically more or less how you're going to feel. You're good. Where it's not like a person rolls their eyes and all of a sudden they throw you into like a loop where you can't stop thinking and you can't focus and you're feeling stuff and your guts are like turning and you're nervous they're gonna not want to be your friend and you're nervous. That's not stability. And how do you work on a smaller level, on smaller levels? You have to, and this is the avoda that we're talking about, understand this concept of pizur nefesh, the scatteredness of your heart wanting one thing, your brain saying a whole other thing, and your actions doing a whole other thing. And that is why also it says, you can literally sit in a chair and be exhausted and have not spent any energy all day. No energy. You have not spent any energy all day and you could be exhausted. Why so exhausted? Because your thoughts and your anxiety and your worries and your fears deplete you. They deplete your energy. They deplete your reservoirs. They deplete your resources. They deplete you. You don't have to run around like a chicken without a head. Dafka, sometimes when you're busy and you're doing things, you have more energy than you would by sitting and not doing anything. Because your emotional, mental energy takes up a lot of energy. More than like eating a 5-course meal sometimes. You have to get on top of these things. You have to know that the prices that we pay for the stuff that we feel oftentimes comes from not being in line with what we know is right. Not living in line, not living on the same page with what I know I want, I desire is good for me, is going to help me, and I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. The more I push it off because I'm addicted to this thing that I think I need and I'm scared to live without, the more I push it off, the more of the discrepancy, the more the separation, the more it's going to get scattered. The more of a pizur nefesh it's going to be, the more of a separation it's going to create. And then I'm echad b'peh ve'echad b'lev. Then I say one thing and then I live a whole other thing. And when I say one thing and I believe one thing and I live a whole other thing. When I say, yeah, it's good to keep kosher, it's good to keep kosher, it's amazing you have to keep kosher. And then all of a sudden I'm faced with a taiva. And all of a sudden everyone's eating in this place that I don't know, I don't see a certificate or I'm not sure. And everyone's like, it's kosher, it's kosher, it's kosher. and I really am hungry and I really want to eat it. If I now eat it without making sure that it's okay to eat, then yeah, I know it's good kosher, but I'm acting in opposition to what I know. It creates a lack of energy. It creates a weakness in my soul. It creates a lack of energy, very little energy. That's what happens. You can't live not in line with what you believe, and when you do, you're weakening your system. The idea in life is to heal that. Is to mend all those pieces together. That what I know, what I believe, what I feel, and what I do are on the same page. And when they're not, because we're human beings, we have emotions that are childlike emotions that are like, I smell it, it smells so good, even though in the morning I said, that's it, I'm not eating, bad food that's damaging to my body, my organs. Now I smell it and all of a sudden I'm there. I'm the first one in line. Give me. Why? Because God gives us our minds and our emotions. Our emotions are separated into a few categories. Right now I'm talking about the emotions of the child. There's a child inside that desires and wants things that they're addicted to and they're familiar with. Period. The reason that she's even excited to answer his text message, even though he's heard her 5 times. And every single one of those times he's acted the same exact way. It's like a script. He's nice in the beginning, he love bombs her in the beginning, and then the drama. And she's left done. He abuses her. And how come after 5 times of that, he texts her the other day and all of a sudden she starts feeling those butterfly feelings of longing. How come? The guy has chewed you up and spit you out so many. Where? What? How? What is that? What happens there? I'll explain to you the psychology behind it. Psychology behind it is that we have, at the same time, we are also child and adult. At the same time, constantly, every single second in life, we are child and adult. The child is the stuff that it's familiar with, the stuff that it knows. I don't care it's 11 o'clock at night. I want to keep watching. I want to eat candy. I don't care. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to share. I don't want to go to dentist. I don't want to do it. I don't want homework. I don't want to take a shower. I don't want to listen to my mommy. I don't want to. Why? Because it says Yetzer levadam ra minu urav. It says that the inclination of the person is inclined way more towards evil. Ra. Evil means things that separate you from yourself. Which means the inclination that we have since we were created as human beings is more towards things that are sick, not healthy for us. Because somewhere in that, there is sweetness. Somewhere in the sickness, and in the unhealth, and in the self-sabotage, and in the stuff that I'm doing that I know is not good for me, is really not good for me, the reason that I get addicted to it, because there's a little sweetness there. I'm gaining that pleasure from it. But I'm paying such a heavy price. I know, but I'm getting a tiny bit of pressure. But I'm paying such a heavy, I know, but I'm paying my whole price my entire life. I know, but I'm getting a little bit of pleasure from it. And where does that come from? It comes from that place of the emotions are like the child, and the mind is the parent. The more you learn, the more you connect to the truth behind what you're doing, the more you understand why what you're doing is so powerful for your life and is so good for you, even though it's hard, even though getting up and going on that walk is hard, even though meditating is hard, even though stopping to not speak the gossip is hard, but you know the benefits of it and what it creates inside of you. You know what it creates inside of you. You know how it's built. You know it's taking you towards your goal. Okay? So when you're able to do that, you basically tell the emotions, I know, sweetie, but it's 11 o'clock at night, and there's no more watching, and there's no more candy. I know, honey, but we have to go to school now. You have to get up. Oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to eat salad. I want to eat pizza. I don't want to be shomer Nakia. I don't want to get up for school. I don't want to do what's good for me. I want to do what's bad for me. I know, sweetheart, that you want to do what's bad for you and not what's good for you. But we love you today. Today, we love you. Today, we love you. And we're going to do what's good for you. Now it's self-sabotaging. And that's the parent versus the child. So the initial thing that you have towards things that are like enticing and alluring, if they are opposite to what you know is good for you, if they are opposite to what you know is, this is not a good relationship, this is not a good thing, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be smoking this, drinking this, partying this, touching this, feeling this, I shouldn't. I know that I'm going to pay the price for it. I know that every single time this happens, I end up feeling like crud afterwards. I know that I'm disappointed in myself afterwards. I know that this is not good for me. I know it's not taking me where I want to go. I know that it's holding me back. I know that it's making me weak. I know it's weakening me. So it has to be that you need to learn, if that's a situation where you know, but your heart is pulling you in that direction anyway, and your desires and that child is saying, I don't care. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to school. I don't care what you say. I'm not brushing my teeth. I don't care what you say. I'm crossing the street without looking both ways. I don't care what you say. If that's what's going on, then the thing that's going to help you a lot is to learn why it's bad to cross the street and not look at in both directions. What can happen to you if you do that? What can happen to you if you don't go to school? What can happen to you if you don't wake up or you go to sleep on time? What can happen to you? The more you connect your da'at to the benefits of what you're doing for yourself, even though if it's hard, the more success you'll have. But that's the work of life. The work of life is to bridge my heart, my mind, my actions. Bridge them, bring them together, where I'm in line with all of those things. I'm living in line with my beliefs. And when I can't live in line with my beliefs are high, then take it step by step, bite by bite. What are you doing today, in your day-to-day life that you know is maybe cut down the screen for 5 minutes, or maybe do something that you know is healthy for you for 5 minutes. Maybe drink maybe drink 2 glasses of water, even though you're so not in the mood, you don't feel like it, and you're not into it, and you're not whatever. Maybe drink the 2 8-ounce glasses of water, even though you lo balach. The idea is to do things that are good and healthy for this person in order to have this person heal and get the most out of their life and live their existence and live their potential. And if I have all these things in my way, they're constantly tripping me and making me fall and then breaking down my nefesh and making this nefesh bizur, which ends up making me weaker in the interim. Tired, weaker, not unmotivated, uninspired, not passionate. I don't know what to do with my life. I don't care. That's what it does. That's what it does. If that's what's doing to me, so understanding that this is the work of my life. Every single day to do something that even though I don't feel like it, I know this is healthy for me. And this is strengthening for me. And this is good for me. And kind of try to stay away from, as much as you can, the things that you know are holding you back in life and are weakening you. And connect to the knowledge behind those things. Why they're bad. Why it's destructive. Why it's holding you down back in life. Even though it tastes sweet, what's it doing to you? What's the long-term effects of this thing? You're going to pay a price. You pay a price for everything in life. There's nothing free. There's nothing that's free. You pay a price for everything in life. You eat that, you're going to see that. You smoke that, you're going to feel that. You touch that, you're going to experience that. There's nothing that's free in this world. You have to pay a price for everything. You think drinking that or doing that or whatever makes you feel good and whatever in the moment, and it does make you feel good in the moment. All of that, it comes back as anxiety and worries and stuff like that later. People that smoke, people that have a lot more anxiety, have a lot more fear, have a lot more panic. Even though the effects of it are calming. It's a vicious cycle. So that's our class for today.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.